Thank you. Mothers are the only people in the world that are expected to work as if they don't have children and raise their children as if they don't work. This is important, so I'm gonna say it again. Mothers are the only people in the world that are expected to work as if they don't have children and raise their children as if they don't work. You should not have to go back to work and leave your children when you are still bleeding, in diapers yourself, leaking from your breasts, and sleep deprived. In fact, I strongly recommend that you do not. Numerous studies have found that the US is one of the only developed countries in the world with no federally mandated paid parental leave. There are only 6 nations in the entire world that don't have legally mandated parental leave, and the US is the only first world country on that list. We get 6 weeks. If you go through major abdominal surgery, cut open to bring your child into the world like I did, you get 8. And if you're lucky enough to qualify for FMLA in the United States, you're entitled to 12 weeks of unpaid leave. However, most women can't afford to take that much time off with no pay. Meanwhile, Estonia offers up to 86 weeks, Bulgaria 58 weeks, the United Kingdom up to 52 weeks, 39 of them paid, and Canada up to 69 weeks. And we act like this is normal. Women are expected to give birth and return to work weeks later as if nothing happened. They're expected to come home after long work days, care for their children like they aren't completely exhausted, breastfeed through the night, change diapers, get a few broken hours of sleep, and wake up to do it all over again. This is not normal. And it's not just hard for mothers, it's harmful. We know that returning to work too early, especially before 12 weeks, significantly increases rates of postpartum depression and anxiety in mothers. In fact, 1 in 5 moms in the US report experiencing postpartum depression symptoms. And studies have shown that access to paid family leave is strongly correlated with lower rates of PPD. I am living proof of this. After I had my first child, the anxiety was crippling. Every single day that I was away from her, I was terrified that something would happen to her, that someone would take her, and that fear consumed me. I would pick at my face until it bled, just trying to cope. Being away from her felt completely unnatural, and not long after, I was diagnosed with severe postpartum depression and anxiety. Breastfeeding success also suffers when mothers are forced to leave their babies too soon. That crucial bonding time is cut short, leaving moms physically exhausted and emotionally disconnected. As a result, their milk production drops, and many end up stopping altogether, either from sheer exhaustion or because their bodies just can't keep up with the relentless stress they're under. One study found that employed women who received 12 or more weeks of paid leave were significantly more likely to breastfeed and still be breastfeeding at 6 months compared to those who had no paid leave. And it doesn't stop with the mothers. Early maternal employment, especially 30 hours a week or more, has been directly linked to negative impacts on child development, particularly in those critical first 3 years of life. Even more alarming, studies show that the first 90 days after birth play a massive role in shaping a child's long-term development. A 2012 study found that infants whose mothers were able to remain home during those first 12 weeks showed stronger brain activity at just 3 months old, which can impact cognitive, emotional, and behavioral health for years to come. These studies make it painfully clear. It's not just hard for mothers to return to work, it's detrimental for both the mother and the child. I lived it firsthand. After my first child was born, I had no choice but to return to work just to survive. The cost of daycare was astronomical, my daughter's health declined, and my mental health crumbled. When I got pregnant with my second child, I had to work 50 hours a week just to qualify for maternity leave. I worked the day before I had my C-section. And once he was born, it hit me. I couldn't actually afford daycare for both these children. And sadly, that's not unique to me. Recent studies show that childcare costs have risen over 30% just since 2020. And for many households, one parent, most often the mom, has no choice but to leave the workforce altogether because they simply can't afford to keep working and pay for daycare. But I didn't have the luxury of falling back on a partner or another parent. I wanted nothing more than to stay home with my babies, but as a single mother with sole custody, it felt impossible. I had to find a way, not just to stay home, but to survive. I started looking for anything, any way that I could earn an income and still be home with my kids. I tried making custom t-shirts and cups. I even considered opening a small shop. And while it gave me a creative outlet, I was spending hours every night after my kids were asleep working for just $5 of profit per shirt. It wasn't sustainable, and it definitely wasn't enough. But I couldn't let go of the idea that there had to be something more. I became obsessed with figuring out how I could build a business, create an income, and still be present for my children. That's when I decided to try social media. I had seen women online leave their careers and build businesses, so why not me? Of course, not everyone was supportive. People told me it wasn't realistic, that only 1% of people who try even make it, and that I was super cringe for even posting. After my first full month, I had 126 followers. That was all. And I'll be honest, I started to wonder if maybe they were right. I was overwhelmed with anxiety, knowing that my maternity leave was slipping away day by day, and the thought of leaving my babies crushed me. I didn't want to go back to work, but I also had no idea how to make this work. I had never done anything with social media except post family photos on Facebook so my grandma knew I was still alive. But I refused to give up because the only way that I could fail was if I quit. I studied the women who were already making it work. What were they doing? How were they doing it? I studied like it was my full-time job. Every day when my kids napped and every night after my kids went to bed. And I realized if I treated this like a hobby, it would pay me like a hobby. But if I treated it like a business, it would pay me like a business. And that shift changed everything. I started posting 3 times a day on 3 platforms every single day, no matter what was going on, no days off. I studied when these women posted, how they spoke, how they captured your attention in 2 seconds flat. And finally, I started to see it. The followers came, the growth came. Women resonated with my story, with my videos, with the fact that I was postpartum, desperately trying to stay home with my babies. Because as mothers, we've all walked through the trenches of postpartum. We all know what that pain feels like. I engaged with every single person who liked, commented, or messaged me. I created a community, a space for women who were tired of being ripped away from their children and told, that's just how it is. And as I kept showing up, post after post, day after day, my business skyrocketed. By month 4, I didn't have to go back to work as a nurse. I submitted my resignation letter and I never looked back. Since then, I've continued to study, learn, grow, and fail forward because my children's future depends on it. It's been 2.5 years since I started this business. I hung up my scrubs and I haven't walked back onto a hospital floor since before my son was born. Today, I've grown to almost 600,000 followers across my platforms. And more importantly, I've been there for every single moment with my kids. The school events, the doctor's appointments, the book fairs, the therapy sessions 3 times a week for my autistic son, the bedtime routines, the boo-boos, the memories, and the life. My kids are thriving, and so am I. I'm living a life I never thought would be possible for me or for them. I believe with everything in me that mothers and their babies belong together, especially in those critical first years of life, and the research supports that. But I also believe in my bones that women have a fire inside of them that ignites the moment they become mothers, a biological urge to nurture, a strength that pushes us through exhaustion, illness, pain, whatever is thrown at us, a strength unlike anything else on this earth. And these policies, they're not getting any better. Mothers are suffering, children are suffering, and the truth is, our society depends on healthy, whole children. So it's up to us, as women, as mothers, to tap into that fire, that strength, that unstoppable drive, to do whatever it takes to create a life where we can be home with our babies for as long as they need us. Our systems may be broken, but mothers, we've never been stronger. And if no one else is going to change the system for us, then we have to become the generation that changes it for ourselves, for our children, and for every mother who comes after us. And if you're wondering what you can do next, it's simple. Don't wait for the system to change. Don't surrender to policies that were never made for mothers. Refuse to play by rules that don't serve your family. Find your way. Whether it's selling cookies at farmers markets, filming videos on TikTok of you organizing your pantry, or turning your story into a business. Take back your time, take back your freedom, because these years, you don't get them back, and your babies, they need you home. Thank you.